in the way of prolongation of the prologue. Message from the great metropolis of vacuum. I cannot sleep well lately. I wake up many times at night. I stare into darkness around, and the darkness stares back. Now I try to put together a puzzle in my conscious mind. What was it from my slowly fading dreams before? Yeah, I am traveling a lot in my dreams lately. Mostly to some very far strange tropical places where I could not possibly been before. Nor I have seen any similar places on pictures or video. Something as the end of the world, places which nobody wants us really to see. I mean, the eternal tourist. I usually stay in one of those shabby, run-down, and out of time, modern built hotels. The beach is usually empty and rocky, but not always. There are all kinds of strange, dislocated people around. I stand on the beach. Out of nowhere, I suddenly stare into the eyes of some young, very pale woman. Vague mixture of Brazilian, Chinese, and Filipino. Now I'm looking at her thick, pale, sensual lips, moving slowly. That is what they say. Hey, stop. You are intruder. Aren't you, honey? Back to part 1. Human form belongs to heaven. The human body belongs to chaos. That's why we cannot be in peace. Our modeled forms aren't in our possession. Our emotions, feelings, thoughts don't belong to us, though it seems so. The only thing we can really do is to tune our instrument till it's attuned with the resonance, which is outside the instrument. The powers and authorities of darkness will be really upset if you try to free yourself from them. To hope for mercy from the authorities with an act of compliance is simply dumb. They have no mercy. Those who are won over are just left in peace for a while. There is no peace in darkness. Bitter evil is the ethical form of darkness. If there wouldn't be an ethical choice and all was left to evil, it would devour itself. So evil needs good. So that's why, at the edge of total destruction, evil pauses in order to start again. So evil is dependent slave of light. It has usurped goodness, but pretends to be its overlord. There is nothing truly benefiting this universe. People are just scared to admit it. It just is. You could say that evil is everywhere in this universe, as supposedly atoms are the basis for all. So if you try to stand up to evil, you stand up to the whole created material universe. Astrology is the study of the physical influence of assumed celestial bodies in space on our psyche. The psyche isn't ours, really, but the 7 surrounding planets are purely physical. Or so we are told by them. Truth isn't depressing, only the amount of lies. It makes you resolute about the place where you are and who you are. If the rulers of darkness weren't scared, neither would be we. There has never been progress and never will be. Truth has been here always, and always there have been lies. This universe is polluted with countless alien beings and thoughts. So the question whether aliens exist is ridiculous. Some are material ones, some are dark invisible forces, and some are dark angels or serpent angels, and so on and on. Lucifer's cronies. Beings you don't want to meet or know. But they all exist in 7 heavens of chaos. Historically speaking, Jews and Arabs, people of covenant, worship Sabaoth, who is one of the sons of the primal parent of chaos, who repented his ignorance and darkness, as we try to do here, to ascend to invisible light, and was placed between the 7th and 8th heavens. Everything that's taken out of the established proportion creates one more illusion. Even cells and stars. By occupying themselves and us with secondary illusions, they cause humanity's extinction. Who are they? We cannot exist without purpose. One who hasn't shared all and then gathered together what's his or hers is in need of illumination. Practice is only necessary to find your real jewel, your true purpose. You cannot do that by learning or working. We are under unrelenting attack from the dark forces every day and night. The feelings of déjà vu or dreamlike states and dreams at night are all signs that you are in a field of awareness of some other entities. Not all entities resemble something we can imagine, or we cannot perceive them because of our lack of certain imagination. If you would know the truth about your own state of affairs, you would freeze forever and never make a move. Rich and poor are equally affected. Riches, fame, superstardom, etc. are all created from dark forces and the powers to keep you chained to them. So you know who you worship. Fear of survival makes you crawl on your knees. There is only one fight for your originally intended true state. If you would know what it is, you would sacrifice all that you think is yours. Love is all there is, and love is all there is seemingly not. Love is void of matter, meaning, reason, intellect, logic, etc. Love gives meaning, reason, intellect, logic, etc. Love is the most misunderstood word, next to soul and spirit. Only unnamable is love. We are merely mirrors of that, in line of progression. Irresistible earthly love arises where the human and the angelic dwell in one being. Love is like water. You cannot say much about it, except that it exists, and it finds the lowest point to flow. Even demonic beings fall in love, which makes them twice as terrible. Any system, government, or authority loathes love. Love is unpredictable. Love doesn't mind you, and all that you think is yours. There is nothing worse than Satan in love, the otherness of unnamable. If love is caged or damned, it readjusts and overcomes the obstacle. There are as many forms of it as there are individual loves. Love has no form, but when one feels it, it has more solidity than solid things. True love has no object. It's beyond any measurement. True love is more than courage. Symbolically speaking, Everything in this world that makes one feel beauty is love light's sacrifice to that which it cannot reach in the material realm. Love cannot be stopped by reason. Love isn't what you see in the mirror. Who do you see? Only childish, ignorant beings will put love to test to see what happens. You'll get fucked sooner or later. Love is upward motion. Be high is love, and love is be high. Love is mind altering, as drugs are, but there the similarity ends. Sex is the power of nature, love isn't. Though it can take any form it wishes, even cruelty. For the impotent, all is cruelty, except for impotence, or that which they are not. As true baptism cannot be performed with water, so true love cannot be performed or felt without the presence of invisible light. The light within you, whether you are aware of it or not, is of a different inclination than physical light. Physical light depends on the weather or natural circumstances. Inner light depends on closeness to Unnamable. So at some point, even physical beings become luminous, also physically. If you don't perceive light in other being, he or she is definitely harmful to you. Similar like similar, and vice versa. One should be realistic in one's approach to sex and love. Do not expect one from the other, even though they could overlap for a while. Any person who holds large amounts of money has killed his or her love. They can only bring harm to others, and they do. They are impotent murderers of Unnamable's will, in the way of prolongation of the prologue. Message from the great metropolis of vacuum. The other day, I was going down the street. There are mostly weird people in this town. Yes, you heard it right. Really weird, to say the least. I'm honest, I don't lie. I discriminate everything. And I mean everything. I even discriminate discrimination. I consider myself one tough cookie. But sometimes, even in this town, things can surprise you. I'm going down the street. Usual semi-darkness, not too many people. Wind blows like crazy, all directions. So in one of the passageways between the houses, I see a man, about 30-something, sitting on the pavement with a suitcase next to him. His eyes are rolling crazily around. His hands are stretched towards the sky. His face is covered in tears, saliva, and God knows what. He's dressed like a successful businessman. He seems not to pay any attention to his surroundings, and he just screams and screams incoherently over and over again. There is something crazy in my head. 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 My head. And you know what I think? I think, you bet, honey, you bet. Back to part one. It's ridiculous to love temporal things. If you love what's not temporal, then all temporal things would be included as well. They would be in love with you. Lovers are always accused of something. They're bad-mouthed and backstabbed, betrayed, etc. Because by the very act of loving, they vanquish the system of authorities. No real lover is a prisoner of system, even if they reside in one. Any little black devil will say it. If everyone would fall in love, all would go to pieces. Now it all goes to pieces. When love and invisible light has been systematically erased by dark authorities. Authorities would even tax the air, but they can never tax love. Because if they did, they would become conscious of it. Fear is contagious, and so is love. At the end of fear, love is stronger. How can you say such a thing with such a certainty? Because it is so. When it will not be certainty anymore, the world, as you know it, will cease to exist, however bad it seems to be now. Foolishly, those who use love for their own ends think that they'll get away with it. Love is more than revenge, so fear it. Be careful with love, because it can be anywhere. Invisible light and love is above the church. The church is a semi-materialistic expression, mix-up of darkness and love, and light in this world for beings who are in the middle. Love reaches much higher than any human can think of. Lower also. Stupid people dig graves for lovers, and at the end they are the ones who fall into it. Love gives no excuses to anyone but to higher love. If you are so foolish as to try to destroy love, then try to strike a beehive first. It's similar. Love never promised you anything except its own nature. Love doesn't care for something particular. Love cares for all. When you understand that truly, it will take care of you too. Love is practice. The normal use of word freedom is here from authorities, since the word implies a state which is absurd. Have you ever seen a single free man here, or a force, or angel, or prophet, or messenger, or woman who's free of it all. Love and freedom is the same thing. These states cannot truly exist without each other. Love also is the most practical. Love is only free in that it connects who it wishes and chooses whoever it wants. All the elect are chosen because of that. Sacrifice your animal soul for love. Or in other words, give the pig wings. It loves to fly. When love sets down in you permanently, so does peace. Love does not take prisoners, nor is love a circus joker or a pleaser of certitude. It's easier to practice together, but it's not a requirement. All dark forces that are fear love as an alien, as you might fear any alien. All that what has been spoken and is known should not be talked about anymore. Only one thing is required of you: love or fight for it more than you can imagine. Never ask for help from your enemies, especially if they are much stronger. But really, how can they be stronger? Before death or after? If you are stronger than they, you can help your enemy by showing them that they live in redundancy. You can only help someone when you have already helped yourself and stand firm. Otherwise, it's a trick from Dark Master to ask you for help. Never underestimate your opponent. Blessings stay only with those who feel blessed in spite of all the interference that may occur. There is no higher privilege than being blessed. Kings are not blessed by Unnamable, but by authorities and people. Until a person no longer fights for his or her blessings, their name is crowd. Crowd is one. Individual is many. That's immutable truth. The worst beings in the universe, whatever they might be, are the ones who try to manipulate other beings for the sake of gain. That includes governments, church and aliens too, mothers and fathers and wives, sisters and brothers, states, homelands, authorities, principalities, the moon, the rest of the planets, and so on. You cannot be manipulated by Unnamable. That's simply incongruous. But you can be by those who use his name in this world or others. You cannot know greatness of his love, because if you were that aware suddenly, you would cease to exist. But that's not one of his blessings. Perfect and protect yourself with transcendence of knowledge in your possession, with your actions and thoughts. That's the blessing of blessings. The world, as you know it, it's almost over. Stay firm, or rather, dance lightheartedly. Truth makes you light. Falsehood makes you heavy. Apply that to any real situation and you'll never fall into forgetfulness, stupor, oblivion, etc. In love, you can finally find yourself beyond the mistakes you have made. When it's real, love is easy. Preciseness you can train, but not direction. Foolishness you can lose, but not the thinking. A truly mad person chooses pain over pleasure. Pleasure will be immense if at the beginning it feels like pain. By abandoning both, you will start to work on your true nature. The biggest fear of fallen angel is that somebody would love him, knowing who he is, without the capability of harming that entity. It is incomprehensible how humans would choose Satan over their true inheritance. Those whose inclination is to deny will be denied. Anything written that doesn't profit you is a lie. Truth is not abstract, it's a living being. Living is being alive. Living is valuing being part of the living one and saying yes over any disturbance, here and hereafter. There is no end. There is only how it is. How you value what you encounter. You don't encounter life. Life is what's under it or over it. Only that can give you strength. Strength is part of truth. Strength embraces you with baby's arms. Innocence has no fear, as fear has no innocence. Matter, with its properties, as such, is corrupted repetition of what's already given us. All that lies beyond that is being in a state of clarity or reaching for it. Clarity is having fewer things to ponder about. So-called enlightenment is a certain seizure of transcendence of impotent thought. When clarity comes, meaning love, and thought ceases, meaning pleroma, unprecedented bliss above the seven heavens starts. And that's immutable truth. Everything in reality happens by itself, good or bad. You react. Good or bad are very similar at the source. But for simple-minded, yes, A glass of wine is better than a glass of vinegar. The past keeps repeating only because you haven't fully embraced what is and what's to come. It's foolishness to think that one thing leads to another. Traps are everywhere. So why not fly? If all your worries are about survival, you have definitely been fooled. A trip is only beneficiary if you trip. Otherwise, walk around the pool. A true man would exchange difficulty for ease if it were to come from the place where ease was thought not to be found. We are here ultimately to benefit from our experiences in terms of eternal life. Strife is selfishness of the fearful awareness of impossibility. Impossibility is everything that doesn't exist yet. Exit the way of that which exists, and you will find the possibility that's behind it. Only for the dead is the graveyard real. The world is a graveyard. Don't ask those on the top of the skyscraper if they are high. And don't go to the hospital to ask if they are low. Don't look for pearls in the toilet. But if you find one there, then know that grace often hides in the deepest pile of manure. Happiness is a state in itself. What's written here isn't to encourage any wishy-washers. Happiness is formidable. It's not based on physical laws or geometry. It's based on the state of happiness. Don't mix up happiness with comfort. The happy will shun neither misery nor riches or any social condition or sexual deviation. The happy ones live life in happiness. The biggest dangers for the state of happiness are the rich, since they depend on these states and can find their state only through coercion. This world's essence has always been poverty and sadness. The social ladder is created by authorities. Satan is created by his own poverty. Only the impoverished want to achieve a state of power. Even ants know that. There would be no rich if they were not, in essence, ultimately poor. One must be against God's creation as such and the destiny of humanity in order to hoard 1,000,000 times more than one need. And the rest worship that person's insanity. Truly, Satan is the prince of this world. He's here because he's poor. He's agent of security. He rebelled against us. If somebody finds these last lines pathetic, so is the world, and the one who thinks so. The computer revolution was an attempt by authorities to restrain their own made-up violence of human makeup with technology. An obvious failure in the way of prolongation of the prologue. Message from the great metropolis of vacuum. It has been a long time already. I don't know how long. Since I have the feeling that I don't know who I am. Who am I? Well, who are you? Am I intruding in your thoughts? I walk around as in a dream. I do not believe anymore in any sensations or thoughts such as me and mine. Whose are they then? Is death the last unchallenged requirement that makes everything real or fake? I don't know. I keep guessing. Even pain and confusion and my troubles don't seem real to me anymore. Oh well, I guess that's life. Though I really doubt it. Anyway, I try my best. People and the world around me seem to be an array of holograms from the futuristic computer games some 1,000 years ahead from now. Called being alive in the 21st century comes with award-winning software, and the ad for the game goes something like this. Even you can have a chance to mingle with a few real people in real time. If you guess correctly who is real, it gives you an additional 100 hours of staying time. Being able to spot and inform about the real intruder gives you unlimited time travel for 1 whole year. Hey, be the lucky strike. Back to part 1. It's clear that even the most primitive reading of the Gospels tells us that humanity hasn't gained any knowledge of itself. It's clear that those who deny will be denied. It's clear that denial is made to profit a certain part of humanity or non-humanity. It's clear that the truth about human affairs cannot be concealed by any word or cleansing. Emulated victims weigh heavy on the stupidity of living, to the point that the living will not be able to draw in a single breath. Any awareness which has some power would rise against its rapist. There is no progression in human affairs. What was at the beginning will be at the end. What was before nature will be after. Events as such never change. To think that something can develop into something that it has not been before is as if one could say, I would not have been a murderer today if I would have known that I was a killer from the beginning. Unnamable has never murdered anyone or anything, nor created conditions for that. If you do that, you don't live in Unnamable's realm. So, Who is your God? What's his name? You? If it's you, pride has made you mad. If it's not you, you don't know who he is. No human has or will ever control anything really. No human ever will prove or disprove by his proofs the Unnamable's existence. Get real. You cannot even count with your eyes the leaves of one tree. What good is your counting on something? What good is your loving if you have no courage? What good is your courage if it floats in vacuum? Chaos is in shadow, and shadow has no part in light. But light has its part in shadow. Because all that subsequent imitates its origin in reversed order. Not a single new thing has been created which hasn't existed already. What has been already will be, and what will be, will be. Otherwise, what has it been? Since invisible light is limitless. No one, whoever they may be, can stand against it. Dead or alive, or whatever. Glory to Unnamable. Have mercy on your servants. Attachment. All that's written here is an attempt from reminder to remove the terrible burden that he has carried and hasn't revealed, largely due to mortifying fear, lack of realization, and the artificial fogginess that has been placed upon him, and largely due to people's callousness and brutal ignorance. Even while being silent for many years, he has felt constant threats of immolation and several actual attempts of murder. So that being said, that brings all of us to the topic of society and what's hidden from it. As Christ said, from the foundation of this world. It's clear to me as a witness that the unwillingness of people to see themselves with open eyes, so to say, will cause their utter ruination. It's a horrible burden to carry when you know that it's true. Most people wanted passionately to overthrow Christ's divinity, or they blindly worshipped his divinity so self-servingly that they missed the great practical knowledge, the reign, about the survival of human society. It's hard to comprehend that the authorities that modeled us are themselves in need and fear. Every premeditated murder adds to darkness and reinforces it. Light cannot be affected by murder. People can. Chaos is shadow. Darkness is in the shadow. The state only pretends that it can take away the result of murder by justifying it. The state is you and your neighbor and nothing else. The rest is authority. All people imitate each other in good or bad. Acquisition is the crookedly mirrored truth of something else. There will never be enough to acquire, since material goods as such are limited. They corrupt you with the promise to elevate you. Whatever it is you possess, you'll want more. You want more because somebody else has more. That desire is the utter disturbance of oneness, which ends in collective seizures. The most powerful in this world are prepared for unspeakable outcome. To bar yourself from growth because of abnormal material wealth, you become an alien to humanity. Shun all alien things because they are alien to start with. One is incapable of accepting the truth of non-exaggerated oneness and differentiation to live with it in all aspects of human life. It's corruption of ethics. Lies lead to sacrifices. Sacrifices lead to victims. Victims have to pay the authorities and principalities of darkness for their lack of understanding of who they are. Victims are always innocent as far as they represent society as whole. Have you seen one successful person who hasn't paid spiritual taxes to dark authorities? All terror, east, west, south, and north, comes from desperation. It's caused by the loss of human meaning. Whatever religions or principles or dominions it represents. Satan is prince of this world. When you kill, you don't think about when to stop. Violence loathes peace. Peace envies tranquility. Let's stop pretending that it's all covered in mysterious darkness. Darkness is dark, not mysterious. Christ has been and is here with his immutable truth. You cannot build a house on a stumbling block. In order to control somebody completely, you have to give him or her feeling of free choice. Democracy is the most active form of governing, but it has nothing to do with the true human inheritance. Individualism and democracy are not congruent terms. It's only fear that posits that model human beings can be given any information masquerading as truth. Proofs aren't really needed. They are in your mind. Difficulty reaching them gives you self-importance and the feeling of the truthfulness of your discoveries. Nobody has ever seen actual power, only its characteristics, which then pass as physical laws. It gives one the feeling that there is a rational logic behind it, to hide the fact that it's all governed outside your comprehension. No logic, just imitation. It's the biggest delusion to create a feeling for yourself that it's you who finds out something. You are merely the one seeking. All is given to you or not. It's for you to separate who the giver is and if it's profitable for you. Once again, you cannot do that without ethics. So one can say that society, as a collective and as an individual entity, spins uncontrollably, with pride as its center, together with Satan as prince of this world. It's fair to say that all could be changed in an instant if necessary for authorities. Say, look what we just found out now. Wow, wow. It's fair to say that the desire to have power over something doesn't originate in humans, but in those who made them. Damn them. The original power is far superior to anything humans relate to as power. That power is far more intricate and perfect than the tiniest part of constructed matter. Nothing happens without that power, here or anywhere else. It has such superiority over all that it can be everywhere, big or small. And ultimately, all that's lower will imitate that power without knowing what they imitate. Authorities, for example. The universe, for example, imitates that power. What difference is there then between the imitator and that power if they call themselves the authorities of power? Knowing is part of that. It may lay in peace. Postscriptum. The same applies for the creatures that had left behind them all kinds of questionable and inexplainable edifices around the world. Be hard.